Greetings, curious acolytes of the Force, and welcome back to the channel. The powers shown to us by the ancient Sith give us a great idea of what the Force is truly capable of when used in the most destructive ways possible. One man who took both the Force as well as lightsaber combat disciplines to their finest would be the Dark Lord known as Exar Kun. We have talked about this specific Sith many times on this channel, but for very good reasons. Exar Kun would be the Sith that utterly defined his generation, and was the first Sith Lord to rise since Nad, who died around 300 years prior. Exar Kun is known for being an absolutely devastating force on both the personal and galactic battlefield, as it was he who invented the double-bladed lightsaber, destroyed the Jedi homeworld of Ossus, and nearly took over the entire galaxy by manipulating the Senate with his Force abilities. Speaking of which, that is what we are going to talk of today, and open up another holocron. We are going to be taking an analysis of Exar Kun's various abilities in the Force. A character who we often highlight due to his skill with the blade, we also wanted to talk about just how formidable he was in the dark side, and reveal to all of you that Exar Kun is actually much more powerful than many give him credit for, debatably reaching levels such as Darth Sidious, Nihilus, and Vitian. So, fortify yourself within the Force, and let us begin. Exar Kun started out as a Jedi prodigy with a promising career ahead of him. He showed incredible promise and quickly proved to be the best that the Jedi Order had to offer. However, much like many Sith before him, Exar found a treasure of Sith knowledge which pushed him to pursue true power by invoking the tutelage of the Sith ghost Nad on the planet of Yavin 4. Here, Exar Kun learned a great many powers in the dark side and even dabbled in Sith sorcery. One of the abilities that Exar Kun utilized a lot was his power of Force Rage. Force Rage derives from one focusing entirely on their own memories of suffering and feelings of hatred in order to harness the dark side into their very physical being. This caused a sharp increase to those that felt this strength, including augmenting their own physical strength, speed, agility, endurance, stamina, as well as most importantly, their ferocity. Many might recognize this is very close to the power of Force Valor, which is an ability similar in nature. Though the abilities have similar functions though, Force Valor can be used by either light or dark side wielders, and Force Rage is typically a lot more potent. Not to mention that if a Jedi used Force Rage, then they'd be completely cut off from the light side while doing so. Exar Kun was known to enter Force-induced rages to quickly overwhelm his opponents with his insane power and skill with the blade. Once he was on a rampage, it was very difficult and nigh impossible to ever stop him. Only the experienced master, Vodo Siosk Boss, ever managed to stop him whenever he entered this fury state. The cost of this power was that it typically left the user temporarily weakened after the effects wore off, making it a lot more of a reckless action. However, Exar Kun took it as more of a high-risk, high-reward situation, and would master the ability to the point of not even suffering from exhaustion afterwards, as this ability basically became natural to him, making him extremely deadly in combat. And this is something that only Exar Kun has ever achieved. Imagine someone with the fury of Darth Malgus fighting at that level for an extended period of time and never running out of juice. That was Exar Kun. I also believe that Exar Kun was quite proficient in using Force-augmented strength. Though he used Nyman as his primary lightsaber form, Exar Kun was extremely aggressive with it, and managed to generate enough power in one training session to shatter the Force-imbued staff of his master in one single strike. He also managed to break a dark holocron in with one mighty punch, releasing all of the dark power within it to corrupt the minds of his fellow Jedi. Another thing Kun did often was imbue each of his lightsaber strikes with the dark side itself, so each hit, whether blocked or unblocked, would hurt all the more. Exar Kun's ability with Telekinesis was certainly on an advanced level, though he never lifted anything incredibly large. It was his application of Telekinesis that made him quite impressive. He was one of the few that could conjure Force whirlwinds that created storms which buffeted opponents with all kinds of debris. His Telekinesis could puncture the Force shields of other Jedi, such as the time that he simply snapped a holocron out of the hand of a Jedi Master with the Force. One of the things that shows me great strength personally was when he used the Force to actually destroy the internal organs of one of his foes. We have seen other Sith use this drastic ability before, one of these being Darth Caedus, who did something similar. This ability is known as Force Rend, which is the act of taking control of someone else's body using telekinesis, and completely dislodging their limbs, joints, or organs. Pretty brutal stuff. This highlighted the more depraved applications of the dark side, applications where Exar shined. Beyond even this though, he could unleash blasts of force energy that was effective enough to kill the Sith worm, and even destroy the spirit of Freed and Mad. We also mentioned prior that Exar Kun delved into Sith sorcery, and now we will discuss one of his greatest powers. Exar Kun became so adept at wielding magic that even incredibly powerful force abilities did not faze him in the slightest. Exar Kun could see through force illusions, and he managed to resist the Force Sever technique and even knew how to use dark healing in order to drain the life from an opponent to heal his own injuries and supply his own power. One of the most grandiose applications of Sith magic on behalf of Exar Kun was when he employed the most powerful technique that all of magic in Star Wars has to offer, that being the Kezoi Kia Tu Ska, which roughly translate to suppress thought in basic. And it is the Sith spell that is essentially a far more powerful version of mind control that can grip several people at once. Exar Kun excellently pulled this off on the Galactic Senate, taking full control of the Supreme Chancellor and the entire Senate surrounding him in the meeting. And he had the Chancellor preach Sith doctrine to the whole Senate, which were all frozen by his single command. At the end of it, the Chancellor was so overwhelmed by the process that he was killed instantly when the spell ceased. He also would use mind domination on a good bit of Jedi, which helped turn them to the dark side and buff out his ranks. His involvement with Sith magic extended to the point where he managed to become a Sith spirit and would haunt the temple on Yavin 4, returning many thousands of years later to torment Luke Skywalker and his Jedi Praxium. Luke would later go on to say that conquering the spirit of Exar Kun was one of the roughest battles that he ever faced, and that he considered it to be among his best victories. During that time, the spirit of Kun managed to actually pull Luke's own spirit out of his body for a time, and even possess some of the Jedi of his academy. Beyond Sith sorcery though, Exar Kun also learned the vile ways of Sith alchemy, and managed to recreate the process of breeding Terrentatex, which were hideous dark side monsters that fed on the blood of Force sensitives. It is safe to say that Exar Kun was an absolute beast of a Force wielder, and not one that any would like to cross anytime soon. From our assessment of his powers, we can reasonably put Exar Kun up there with the greatest, again, such as Sidious and Bane, and I would say that Exar Kun easily outclasses even Naga Sadow, just based off of his combat prowess and success rate. But what do you think, my friends? What do you think of the powers of Exar Kun? And did you realize that his force abilities were so extensive? As again, most of the time on the channel, we've talked about Exar Kun's lightsaber skills. And now, the golden question for the comment section. How well do you think Revan would do against Exar Kun? Let us know down below. And as always, my friends, may the Force be with you, and I hope that you have a great day.